Europe, the European migrant situation just keeps getting worse. Italy's Coast Guard says its navy rescued 3,000 migrants off the coast of Libya over the weekend after responding to requests for help from more than 20 vessels. Italy has been routinely carrying out similar rescues, bringing hundreds of migrants to its shores. But the scale of Saturday's operation was unusually large. Europe has struggled to cope with an influx of migrants. More than 2,300 people have died trying to reach Europe this year. Now, for more on the migrant crisis, Itayi Viriri, a spokesperson with the International Organization of Migration, joins me live via Skype from Geneva, Switzerland. Now, Viriri, welcome to Africa 54. The question is, do you see an end to this crisis in sight anytime soon?
Well, unfortunately, we don't see any end in sight because of what we have been saying all along, that there's lack of coordination amongst the European Union member states. We have called for a more coordinated approach in terms of dealing with the numbers that are arriving. So making sure that all those 250,000 or more that have arrived, mostly in Greece and Italy, can be spread on to the other countries in the rest of the EU. We're talking of an economic bloc with 28 countries. So the common sense would be that they will be able to share these numbers evenly. But what we're seeing so far is that quite a lot of these migrants are either staying in Italy or Greece, and very few are managing to continue on to go to countries like Germany, Sweden, or the UK.
Now, this has been going on for a long time now. What has been impeding any kind of concrete, comprehensive strategy or plan by the Europeans?
Well, some countries have not been very forthcoming in terms of taking up as many numbers as they could. So, for example, countries like Hungary have said that they are not interested in taking in numbers per capita on a per capita basis. So that means that then the burden remains on the likes of Italy and Greece. And so far, we're seeing, the numbers that are trying to reach, say, for example, the UK, where the situation in Calais, you're only talking of a very, very small number comparatively, less than 5,000. And if you consider that Greece has received over 150,000 and Italy 100,000, then you can see the scale of the kind of support and assistance that those two countries need from the rest of the EU.
Now, Itayi, is it just me seeing things this way, or are these numbers increasing, at least in the last few months?
They certainly have. Normally every year, I would say in the last 5 or 6 years, the summer season is when these journeys, migrants make these journeys because the sea is a bit calmer, not as rough and choppy as it is in the winter. So we always expect this to happen, but certainly the numbers are right now projected to be much higher than they've been in recent years. And already we've also been talking of high death rates, of people trying to cross the Mediterranean. So far, over 2,300 have died, whereas the whole of last year, 3,000, or just over 3,200 people died. So, we were trying to sort of figure out how and why the numbers are going as high as they are. Obviously, we're also looking at protracted conflicts around the world, with the addition now of Yemen.
Now, question is, do you get a sense of why people persist despite of all these tragic stories on the Mediterranean?
I think it's desperation. It just shows how desperate people are to get away from whether it's conflict or countries where there's human rights abuses, countries where there are, they just find that it's untenable for them to stay. So we speak to some of the people who make these journeys and those who survive the crossings, and they tell of situations where they feel they had no other choice. And I think that realization still hasn't reached some of the decision makers in Europe to really realize how desperate and people have no other opportunity, or they feel that they have no other opportunity to survive. So you get that sense that even if they know what has happened to others who have not made it, or the difficulties of actually staying in Europe, because sometimes they're not guaranteed to be allowed to stay in Europe, they still would make the journeys anyway.
Well, thank you very much, Itayi, for giving us your perspectives. Itayi Viriri is the spokesperson for the International Organization of Migration. He joined us live via Skype from Geneva, Switzerland.